Article goes on to say that polling shows that the vast majority of Americans know very little about the Inflation Reduction Act and other Biden climate policies. And while Americans increasingly view climate change as a threat, they rank it far below economic concerns. Indeed, one poll released earlier this year showed that only 38% of Americans would be willing to pay $1 per month in terms of a carbon fee to address climate change.
Well, Antoine, you said you wouldn't pay more for corn, so I kind of understand.
Yeah, but I will pay for a subscription. So I think
That's true.
I think that all shakes out in the end.
But I, this is what's frustrating. We have institutions for a reason, right? One, because we need experts in areas, in disciplines that other people, whatever it may be, cannot devote their lives to becoming experts in. And so we have these institutions that do the work to tell us how to be. Right. And then we have the other thing where we just totally undereducate our population. So our STEM baseline is just in the toilet. Right. So even when the institutions that we empower tell us what to do, we are so easily exploited and manipulated to distrust them if it impacts our convenience. Correct. That it's just so much easier to be like nerds, mad scientists, however else they're portrayed over, as long as I can remember. Yeah. So we do not educate the population to be able to understand at a minimum level, at a bare minimum level, what our institutions are trying to guide us towards. You can't fundamentally understand, if we can't fundamentally grasp that our planet's ecosystem, like our global ecosystem, which is really a million ecosystems, that our planet's ecosystem is starting to fail, and not fail that Earth is going to turn into a barren desert, right, but not for us. It's more difficult for humans to survive now, and in some cases impossible in some parts of the globe. You don't understand that there's an economic cost to that your grocery store items, if they're even still available, will go up. What are people thinking? You must think that it's just all made up, which is crazy.
No,
but you must just think it's complete. But you don't understand that if the ocean as a resource cannot maintain its food supply, if we can't maintain food supplies on land, if places become unlivable, whether it's due to drought, extreme heat, or extreme storms, flooding, whatever it may be, mudslides, fires, whatever it is, whatever this Mother Nature can throw at us, if you don't understand that there is economic cost across the board to rebuilding, reinforcing, feeding, I don't know, there's just everything that society does. How can you not make that connection? So I guess my question, not necessarily to you, but my comment on that is, what the hell are you talking about? People who voted this, what rank and what did climate change come in, 4th or 6th, or what was it?
Doesn't matter. It's not in the top 3.
Yeah, I just don't there's nothing else that impacts everyone. And you have no idea what this is going to do to us in the near future. Forget about long term. Just because you don't feel it today, or it's just because you don't recognize how you feel it today, doesn't mean that you're not going to soon. And there's so many things where you have the opposition fighting tooth and nail until they can't ignore it anymore. And I just, what is that day going to be when they finally have to admit that things are really bad? I mean, what are we going to do? Welcome them back into the fold and say, let's fix this together? What is that day going to look like?
I don't know. But
this is infuriating. Sorry.
I do kind of agree with one of your fundamental positions, and that is
just one,
actually. I mean, it's only that asking people to pay $1 in a climate change fee, saying that this dollar will go to addressing climate change, that's bad policy. That's fundamentally bad policy. I do not fault people for completely knee-jerk, to recoiling from that position, to just say we're going to take $1 out of your pocket for an amorphous idea of fighting climate change. Because it's what does that mean? It has to be more directed. That it has to be very succinct. There has to be actionable action attached to what we're going to be doing if we're going to be asking people to pay more. The idea of a self-sacrifice because the planet is dying is just it's not realistic at the stage that we are at. And I agree with you. However we got here, whether it be education, whether it be enough propaganda to slay an elephant, however you want to position it, at the end of the day, to ask an individual to say, you know what, we know this is good. This is gonna. It's granted, yes, it's gonna impact us all, and we know this. I mean, but to tell someone that you need to make this sacrifice now without giving them a 1-to-1 return on that investment, I just think it's unfair. And I will say why it's unfair, because this is the thing, I'm not addressing this here, but a recent study came out and it said it was alluding that 40% of like emissions, basically anything that is creating climate change in terms of carbon output, 40% of it can be attributed to 1% of the population, the global population, or at least the 1% in terms of economic viability, like economic wealth. So like the 1%, because of their investments, because of where their money goes, basically fuel 40% of what it is that affects us for climate change. And no one is asking that 1% to shoulder 40% of the burden. That, in fact, that would be preposterous. Most people would be
we just talked about this with the aviation stuff. Yeah, that was the same example.
Similar, yeah.
It is where 1% we're responsible for half of the emissions.
Yeah.
And the rest of us are paying 17% or whatever tax rate, and they pay 2%. Like So I agree with you. I will even agree. I don't know if you've necessarily come out and say it on this particular issue, but we covered it in a previous episode, I think, where we both kind of said it. I don't want to pay more. One, I agree with you that I want to know exactly where this is going, because this is too important. Like, this isn't, climate change is such a different animal than any other policy challenge that we've ever faced, because not everything else you could fix eventually. Okay, the bridge collapses, the roads go to crap. You can rebuild those. You cannot rebuild the planet in this way. Like, it's different, and no one knows. It'll take, I mean, God, man, this could take like hundreds of years to rebound from, if not more. It's nuts. So there's that part. I want to know exactly where the money's going, but also screw paying more. We are currently subsidizing the main drivers of climate change. Take that money.
We are. Oh, I mean, we talked about this, I think, in the last episode of the climate change. Yeah.
Take some of that money and divert that over.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing? What do you mean $1 more? What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, this would be something this would be a viable route to solving climate change if both parties were not party to basically keeping the status quo.
I'm not going to get into an advertising war with ourselves. What are we going to pay $1 more to start running a PSA campaign while we're giving X amount of dollars to fossil fuel companies and stuff, and they're running counter ads? Like, what is the plan here?
I agree with you. I'm trying to say, like, at the end of the day, what do we expect from people? That's what I'm saying. If the Republican Party is going to go out and tell you that that the other side wants you to pay $1 more, and the other side, because they're in the pocket of these big corporations that are the agents of climate change, they're not going to go out and defend it. They're not going to go out in opposition and say, yeah, this $1 more is to start taking some of these subsidies away. If you have the opposition party that's unwilling to do that, and then you have one party that's on the offensive, aggressively doing this, it's that we call this, again, ratchet politics, right? One side gets in and they move the ratchet. The other side gets in and they hold the ratchet. The other side that one side gets in again and they move the ratchet, and the other side gets in and holds the ratchet. I don't know what we want out of people at the end of the day. And that's the thing. I get it. We're talking about education. We're talking about, why can't you contextualize this? Why can't you see that the sacrifice needs to be made if you want your children to have a better world? Your politicians are not out there delivering that message. No one is out there delivering this message. This is a message that people have to come to completely on their own. No one in the public eye is going to help you reach this message. This is a message that you have to dedicate time, energy, and essentially brain power to come to yourself to say, this is something I need to do. This is something I need to do irrespective of what is being told to me by the media, what is being told to me by my politicians, by representatives in the government, the world order.
They're not trained to do that. Like, that's the thing, though. It's like
the people have to. That's a lot to ask.
Have to all of a sudden establish a interest in learning and a habit of continued learning and really dive deep on this one particular topic.
Correct.
Just not going to happen.
Exactly.
Honestly.
So what do you expect? Exactly.